Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We missed last week. Sorry about that. And tonight was a real challenge also. Satan's really trying to stop this, I believe, but we're going to keep fighting and see what we can do to make it keep working. Some different things came up and I just wasn't able to make it happen last week, but I apologize again. But be sure and like the Facebook page if you haven't done that yet, because every day I put like a few little sentences on there in the morning, like some updates and of the news headlines. So if you get a chance, like that. Just little tidbits. A lot of people like it. So if you haven't done that, do that, please. But you have to be careful what you put on there, because the Facebook police caught up with me last week, put me in jail for a little while, just because I posted an actual news article from Austria. It was no commentary. It was nothing. It was just an actual news article. So, but as long as they let me, we're going to put something on there, okay? I'm glad that we have different ways to communicate, like the podcast and on the YouTube page. I hope that you guys are taking advantage of that, because I don't know how much longer Facebook's going to allow any varying opinions to even be on there. A couple of things from last week I do want to get caught up on, in case you missed it. CBS reported that the IRS guidelines for this year states that everyone must list the value of the property they've stolen and count it as income. I am not making that up. One of two things here, okay? This is a legitimate press release by the IRS. What they're saying is, whatever property you stole last year, you need to report that as income. Either these Washington bureaucrats actually think that thieves and crooks and robbers are basically good people. You know, they could think that, I guess. And if the government, if we tell them to do something, they're going to do it. They may actually think that. I wouldn't put it past them. Or they think that some of these people are actually dense enough to tell on themselves. Maybe they're using a type of reverse psychology, you know, thinking that maybe someone will actually tell on themselves for what they stole. I don't know, but I found that unbelievable that the IRS would issue that. But they did. It's got to be one of those. But because think about it, if they weren't actually trying to accomplish something, why would they even spend the time or the money or the effort to write this up and release it around the nation? Why would they even do that? It makes no sense to us. We laugh at it. But I think that we have people running this country that think that we are just that stupid. That if you were to steal something, you're going to come tell them, yeah, I stole it. You know, that's my income for this year. I don't know. Also from CBS and Gas Buddy, put these two together so it's a pretty reliable source. They expect gas prices to be over $4 a gallon or more by spring. And you can see where they would say that because of what's going on in the Middle East. A lot of the UAE drilling well sites have been bombed and destroyed by the rebels. It's a big mess over there. So you see the mess going on with Russia. And so it's easy to see how, I know here in our town, just this week, gas prices went up 10 cents. That's not much, but you can see where Gas Buddy is probably right. The way Biden has actually crippled our ability to produce our own oil, we are so dependent now on foreign sources that you have to look overseas. You have to see what's going on. All this little stuff that's happening is what is going to affect our gas prices. Used to, it wouldn't have. You know, if they blew up an oil well over there, it wouldn't affect us because Texas is pumping out all we need, but not now, thanks to President Biden and his administration wanting us to go green and not use fossil fuels. So that's just the truth of it. There's something else on the IRS before we move on. Gizmodo. It's kind of a new age type website, Gizmodo, that you can go look to and kind of see what's going on with some different aged people. But they have a good article, and it says the IRS is now requiring facial recognition to be able to access your taxes. So I went trying to verify that, and yes, this is a legit story. It's a legit article. Everyone is going to have to submit to a face scan before you can access your account. Now that's either to pay taxes or to get your refund, and that should be fully implemented this year. So you can expect, not this tax time that we're in right now, but the one next year, everyone's going to have to use facial recognition scans to be able to access your account. And on the surface, you may think, well, why does this matter? But remember, I believe that we're entering into this time of biblical prophecy fulfillment. So when you look at things and look at different events and the way that they try to ease things in gradual doses to the sheep so that we'll obey, you have to look at this stuff and say, wait a minute. So at first, you wonder why. Think about this. Retinal eye scans are more accurate than fingerprints. So what they need is that facial recognition so they can get the eye scan. That's just how simple it is. I think it's part of the Great Reset that we're being prepared for. Being able to track and keep tabs on everyone shows us how we are in the beginning stages of this one world government. And we know that that's going to happen because the Bible tells us plainly that at the end times there's going to be a one world ruler that's going to keep up with everyone, and you're going to have his mark, pledge allegiance to this new government before you can do anything economically, whether you can enter into buying or selling is what Scripture says. So you see what they're doing. How in the world would you keep up with everybody that does not take your mark and do all that stuff? So you see what they're doing. China's been doing it for years. So now the U.S. is falling in line, with the World Economic Forum. That's what it's all about. So once they can get everyone, everyone wants the refund, right? Everybody wants that government money. So they're going to just line up and take the facial scan so they can, do their taxes. So it's a pretty smart way for them to do it if you think about it. But just be prepared for that. Next year it's coming. You're going to have to do that. Unless something changes, I don't see how it would. That's what they're going to do. You can read Revelation 13 verses 16 and 17 that explain how you're going to have to, everyone's going to be numbered and counted. And so this is just a way to do it. I think it's pretty slick if you want to be honest and give it to them the way they're doing it. I'm not going to spend too much time on COVID or the shot. I know that y'all are as sick of it as I am. But there's one or two things that are noteworthy that we need to go over. And this surprised me. But extremely liberal Starbucks, they're out there on the left coast and they're always first in the culture wars. Starbucks is. Well, they canceled their vaccine mandate for all their employees. I was like, wow, Starbucks did that. That's newsworthy. Starbucks management has been about as far left as you can go for years. But we'll see what that means. Why did Starbucks cancel it? Newsweek also reports, they showed a picture. Oh my goodness. They showed a picture last week of the KN95 mask that were distributed to Congress. Everything's on camera now. So they had the camera right on these masks that the congressmen were wearing. And guess what? Every one of them said made in China. Your government's mask that they are wearing are made in China. I know everything's made in China, but this really got me, man. I mean, are you kidding me? China developed this biological weapon, is what it is, and it has infected the world. They did it, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Facts are facts. Fauci helped fund this research with the NIH, and that's where it came from. You'll never know if it was intentional or unintentional, but we know it came from the Wuhan lab. So now we are buying masks from the people that put the virus in the world. Am I the only one that sees how crazy this is? But that's what we're doing. And then some people turn around and say, well, I wonder why no one trusts the government. Really? When you look at what they do, how can anyone trust them? The latest thing I saw today before I came over here was that President Biden's approval rating is at 40%. And the first thing I thought was, you mean to tell me that 120 million Americans, that's 40% of our nation, approve of what's going on? That should shock us. That should really get our attention. If that poll is true. But At the same time that they showed this picture of all of our congressmen wearing this made in China mask, at the same time is when Biden announced the government will now be giving away 400 million masks. I guess you saw that a week or so ago. Do you think China just gave us 400 million masks to hand out to our citizens out of the goodness of their just communist heart? Yes, we're just going to give you these masks. No, of course not, people. Our government bought those masks from China, and now they're distributing them for free. Well, nothing's free. Somebody bought them. Do you see the connection? Do you see where the virus came from, what it's done, the billions that Big Pharma has made off of it, and now China is making billions off of us? I hope I'm not the only one seeing this. I hope more people wake up to the rottenness that actually is Washington, D.C. That's Republicans and Democrats. They are rotten. And that's just the truth of it. I hate to be so pessimistic about our government. I do pray for them. I love them in the Lord, and I hope that they change some of their policies. But the fact is, what's going on is just rottenness. That's what it is. Nations are going in all different directions with the virus now. I just want to give you a couple of quick updates. You can see how different is happening around the world and what different people, different nations are doing. Israel just okayed everyone 18 and older to get their 4th booster shot. 4th booster. So if you've had the 2 shots plus 4 boosters, that means you've had 6 shots of this stuff. Now, time will tell what this level of gene therapy will do to the body. But what got my attention was people in Israel seem to be just willing guinea pigs. They're just lining up. They're scared to death, and they're just taking it. And that's what it is. This affects people on the genetic level, down to your genes, your chromosomes, down to the smallest part of you. And they have no clue. Every scientist will tell you they have no clue what this amount of this stuff will do in the long run. 6 shots? Come on. Several nations are doing that, and Israel's lining up willingly. On the other side, Great Britain has lifted all mandates and restrictions. President Boris Johnson said, quote, "We are going to have to learn to live with this just like we do the flu," end quote. I agree with him. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere. It's a nasty little bug that's killed a lot of people, but it doesn't look like it's just going to go away. On the 19th, the Daily Caller reported, quote, "CDC reports that natural immunity gave stronger levels of protection against COVID than the vaccines do," end quote. Now, let me give you a heads up. That will put you in Facebook jail, because just from personal experience last week, but that's a CDC report. That's just a news story, but they don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear the narrative that they're putting out there. So just be aware, if you share that fact, you're going to jail. Now, the Business Insider reported on the 25th that OSHA has officially scrapped its vaccine mandate for large employers. But listen to this caveat now. Listen to what they said. The OSHA representative that quoted in this article, he said this, quote, "The Biden administration is working on a permanent vaccine standard." Did you catch that? The Biden administration is working on a permanent standard. Standard means law, rule. I have to deal with that all the time dealing with MSHA, but so they're still working on coming up with their own law that will force this. Now, they're not stopping. As we talked about last time we were together, if you remember, all the medical fields are still requiring it. They're forcing it because of money. The government's giving the hospitals a certain amount of money. If they're 100% vaccinated, they're getting a certain bonus money from the government. And if they don't do it, then they're not going to be able to file on Medicaid and Medicare. That's how the government gets in there. And these hospitals are dependent upon that. They don't care about people. They don't care about if any kind of adverse reactions or your beliefs. They just want you to do what you're told as an employee so they can get their money from the government, period. That's all it is to it. So just be aware that they're not going to let this go. That's what the Business Insider says. The Biden administration is still working on this, so they're going to come up with another one. Think about it. The level of control that they have experienced through this, that's just too much for politicians to let go of. I mean, they have been able to control and mandate the population in a way like never before. And they just can't let that go. So they're not. The last thing we'll bring up on this topic, we're going to move on. But ETNT Health. Last Friday ran a story. Headline: Dr. Fauci says here's who will get sick from Omicron. Really? I really had to take a couple of deep breaths when I read that headline. Dr. Fauci says here's who's going to get sick. How does he know? Does anybody else ask these questions? How does this little man know who will get sick? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does he know that we don't? What does he know about this bug? And he knows who it will affect greatly. How does this guy know? Think about that. But he does. And people listen to him. I think that he may know a little bit more about this than he's ever let on. That's what I think. All I can say is, you can bet your Chinese-made mask he knows more than he's telling. I'll bet you that much. Now, Channel 12 News out of Montgomery, Alabama reported that last week the Hyundai plant had to shut down for a while because of a part shortage. It was big news all around here. After a little digging, I found out that it was a shortage of semiconductors. Well, guess what? Guess where they're made? China. You got it, right? That wasn't a hard one to guess. You want to hear something else that'll make you want to pull your hair out? Listen to this. Beginning in May of last year, the United States increased their oil imports from Russia by 23%. Yeah. So now we get 844,000 barrels of oil every day from Russia. You can find those stats on redstate.com. And now we're threatening to send troops to fight Russia if they invade Ukraine. This borders on insanity. A few months ago, we upped our oil that we get from Russia. Now we get a total of 10% of all the oil and gas that we use from Russia. Do you really think that we're going to make them mad by helping Ukraine? Are we really going to attack Russia where they can just cut off our oil? Think about all this. Why did Biden up the oil we're getting from them? And now why is he threatening this action over the Ukraine deal? And I'm still not convinced that Putin is really going to invade Ukraine. I think it's all a show. I think it's a bullying tactic on his part. Yes, they want Ukraine to be back part of the Soviet Union. Yes, they do. But I don't think that he's going to do that. I think he's threatening so that he can sell more oil and gas. That's what I think. We'll see. We'll see. But you better believe that Biden is not going to do anything to actually stop Russia. It may be a lot of show. The sad thing is it's happened before. But he may actually send some of our boys over there to get killed or maimed as just political theater. But he's not going to do anything to actually stop them. You can believe that. And on the 18th, according to Newsweek, Russia, China, and Iran started their joint naval exercises. I talked about this back in August. I don't know if any of you guys were listening then, but I had a big thing about this, how it lines up straight out of the book of Ezekiel. You can go to Ezekiel, probably start about 37 and go through 40 chapters. And it gives you a great outline of the Gog-Magog alliance, who all's in it, all the nations that are in it, and how they're going to come together. And this is just exactly out of Ezekiel. Think about this. Right now, China is flying 40 to 60 military jets over Taiwan every day in an intimidation tactic is all they're doing. They're trying to scare Taiwan into doing what they say. Iran is supplying all the rebels in Yemen with rockets that they're bombing the oil fields in the UAE with. I know you heard about that. Now, Russia has massed over 100,000 troops on the Ukrainian border. Russian anti-aircraft weaponry is assisting Syria against Israeli airstrikes against the terrorists over there, while Turkey has moved into northern Syria with their military. Now, what's going to happen? I don't know. Maybe nothing. This may be the big one, or it may just be, some role play where they're getting ready, trying to see what happens. I don't know. I hope it's just a trial run. We don't know, but it will happen. It will eventually happen. Ezekiel 38 and 39 tell us that plainly. These nations will come together and they will form an alliance, and it's already happened. But don't let the naval exercises scare you too much, because they actually talked about that, like I said, months ago, and they said when they were going to do it, and they just started it. On Politico, they had another story about the concerns that airlines are having about the new 5G technology. Remember we talked about that? How it was going to affect their aircraft and the elevation sensors that would tell them how high the aircraft actually was. But it's been operational for several days now. Nothing's happened. I've seen no news stories. I've seen nothing about jets crashing. So maybe it was just a lot of fear. Maybe they got it figured out. But the 5G systems are up and running, and I haven't heard anything. But the airlines are still concerned. I don't know why. I hope it's nothing. This was on multiple sites. I don't know if you guys saw this. I wanted to bring it up because this shocked me. We sell some of our military equipment to our allies around the world. Everybody knows that, right? And South Korea is our big ally, so they buy a lot of stuff from us. So we make the F-35A stealth fighter jet, probably the most sophisticated and technological aircraft that's ever been created. We sold some to South Korea, okay? Now, this South Korean jet the other day had to make a crash landing. The pilot wasn't killed, thank goodness. But this jet had to make a crash landing because it hit a bird. Now let that sink in for a minute. This is a $148 million aircraft that crashed because it hit a bird. They have these two big intakes, one on each side of the aircraft, and they take in a lot of air. And this jet is very technical, but a bird went in the left intake and just shut the whole engine off, and it was done. The guy had to crash land it. But I don't know you, but that about you guys, but that doesn't give me a lot of confidence in our engineering and our military. If a bird, one, can cripple that aircraft, then I don't have a lot of faith in it. Don't you think? I've worked in the industry now for a lot of years, and don't you think that there was one college-educated engineer that worked on that aircraft, just one, that said, hey guys, maybe we should put some wire mesh, or maybe we should put something in front of this air intake so a bird won't go in it and crash a $150 million airplane. But no, there's nothing over. It's just wide open. But I don't know. You would think somebody would have came up with that. There's a couple of more articles. I'm not going to have time to get to all this. See if I can figure out the ones I want to get to. But maybe we should have just built the airplanes in Mexico. I don't know. They seem to be doing a better job because jobs are headed that way again. I don't know if you've seen that. But Continental Tire in Fletcher, South Carolina announced that they're closing their plant and moving all operations to Mexico. Remember many years ago when Clinton was in office, that was just every other day somebody was moving a business to Mexico, and that's happened again. But up in Fletcher's, 380 jobs are going to be gone. They were at 650 a couple of years ago, and I believe that we're going to see a lot more of this under this administration. We're going to see a lot more plants closing and moving to Mexico. But if you're sad or worried or upset, don't worry. If any of this stuff bothers you, don't worry, because the wonderful press secretary, Jen Psaki, guess what she said this week? She has a solution. This was on yahoo.com. You can look it up. It was all over the news. She was on The View the other day, and she said, quote, if you're angry about the voting rights bill, go to a kickboxing class and have a margarita and do whatever you need to do this weekend. The elitist, shut up and take it attitude of this woman and these people is sickening. They're just so much smarter and better that you just don't know what's good for you. Just have a margarita and shut up, is what she's saying. Oh my goodness. How out of touch can someone be just to blow people's emotions and feelings off like that? Just shut up. But that's what they do every day. CNN reported that the Supreme Court clears the way for the House to get all the Trump White House documents. Who knows what they're going to come up with? I don't know. If he did something, I hope they catch him. I hope that that our government can be more transparent and they can find the truth. But if you look at what they've done before, you don't have a lot of hope with that. Remember the Russia hoax that now has come out that it was all completely fabricated. There was nothing to it. And the man got impeached for something that was completely fabricated. So we don't have a lot of hope in what they're doing now. The problem is they hate this man so much that they cannot stomach the idea of him being president again. He's not part of their political clique, Republican or Democrat. They're all together. That's just for show. That's on the outside to get certain groups to vote for him. But they can't stand him. They could care less what he did for the economy, for our borders, making us energy independent. $1.70 a gallon gas. You remember that? Yeah, they don't care. They'll do anything to not let an outsider back in the White House. It's been proven that they have invented a lot of things, and they've also proven that most of it came from the Clinton Foundation. Will they invent something else? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Did you guys hear the rumor? Oh my goodness, that Hillary is planning on running for president in 24. Good grief. I don't know if I can stand another deal with that, but there's all kind of conspiracy theories going around about who Biden is going to nominate for the Supreme Court, and then how they can somehow get Hillary in there, or is she going to run against him in 24? Let's just wait and see. Might have enough time to touch on a couple of more things. It's been big news about Supreme Court Justice Breyer announcing his retirement. It's not a big surprise. He's the oldest justice on the court. He's 83 years old. He's been pressured to retire while the Democrats have the majorities, right? That way Biden can put a liberal judge on the court. There won't be much discussion about it. They have the majority, so whoever Biden nominates will go right in there. Breyer was installed by Clinton. He's been very liberal. So this will be just replacing a liberal with a liberal. It won't change the court at all. But the newsworthy thing is Biden said he will only nominate a black woman, nobody else. A lot of talking heads on the news stations are calling this discrimination. And I guess maybe that's true. If you won't even guess about anybody else, if it has to be this, then that's a form of discrimination. It is. So just expect all this to dominate the news this spring and summer, because Breyer said that he's going to leave at the end of this term, and the term normally ends like the end of June, 1st of July. So he's going to be around till then, but just expect it come this summer. That's all you're going to hear about. One more thing about Miss Sickeningly obtuse and arrogantly vindictive Jen Psaki. She announced the FDA would no longer send the monoclonal antibody treatments to Florida. Did you hear that? The lie she said was that they don't work. She said instead, quote, "We're sending the vaccine and plenty of boosters. People will have to take that." The antibody treatment does work. It's been proven. Many people have used it and have had great results from it. Florida Governor DeSantis has been harshly criticizing this move by Biden. That's been all over the news. But the fact is the FDA has sole authority over drug regulation in the United States. That's just the truth. There's nothing DeSantis can do about it. There's nothing anybody can do about it. The FDA controls it completely. So whatever they want to do, they're going to do. It's an underhanded, wicked move by the government to force people into taking this gene therapy. That's just all it is. Looks like they're going to get away with it. And then did you guys see where Nick Saban signed that letter asking Senator Manchin to vote in support of the Voting Act? If you're leaving us on the podcast, I'm going to have to let you go. Our time's running out. Hey, you guys on the podcast, go to church and keep reading your Bible. Thanks. But if we're on the YouTube thing, then you need to listen about this about Nick Saban. This drives me crazy because I'm an Alabama fan. And but Nick Saban signed this letter asking Manchin to please support the Voting Act. Maybe the greatest college football coach of all time, but completely ignorant on voting rights law. And that's just the truth. All this does is keep anybody from having any type of accountability in your voting. That's all it does. And it's kind of surprising that Nick Saban would go along with that. I'll read you guys a verse of scripture real quick before we go. James 4:17 says, "Therefore to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin." You never have to wonder, should I do this? Should I not do it? Do you know it's right? Do you know it's wrong? If you know that it's wrong, then you shouldn't be doing it. It's sin. But I want to thank you guys for listening. Hopefully we can get back in the routine of doing this pretty regular. But like I said to the podcast people, you guys go to church Sunday if you get a chance, and keep reading your Bible. Thanks.